Good morning, y'all, and welcome back to the channel. So it's been just over a year since I started my landscaping company, which means I've had a year of operating my SCAG Tiger Cat 2 lawnmower. So today I figured I'd talk to you guys about why I bought it, what I paid for it, the things I've broken, the things I've upgraded, the maintenance I've done on it, and whether or not I would do it again. Here is the SCAG Tiger Cat 2 in its natural environment, meaning it's dirty. This is what it looks like when you mow in Texas and it won't stop raining. I don't know about where you guys live, but here in Texas, it's rained every day for the past 9 or 10 days, meaning things get dirty when you're mowing. And since this is a review video, I don't really want to show you guys the SCAG in its worst condition, so we're gonna do something about that. There, that's better. Now it's clean, we can do a proper review of this awesome SCAG Tiger Cat 2 with a 61-inch Velocity Plus deck, and back here, the heart of it is the Briggs & Stratton Vanguard 36 horsepower motor. That thing is a beast. Right here, under the seat, we have dual 12cc pumps that drive 14.5 cubic inch Parker drive motors. That pump and motor configuration will propel this mower to 12 miles an hour forward and 5 miles an hour in reverse, which is really fast if you're trying to cut at full speed. Honestly, there's no way you can actually cut in full speed, but it's awesome it can do it. It has an awesome adjustable suspension seat, which is a must if you're gonna spend all day driving on it. It holds 9.5 gallons of fuel, which some days doesn't seem like enough, but it's actually a ton of fuel it carries. And it weighs in at a whopping 1,250 pounds, which is a little on the heavy side and terrible for wet conditions. But overall, this machine, after 1 year, has been pretty awesome. Let's check out the hours. So 1 year of operating, we have 312 hours on it. Now that may not seem like a lot to some of you guys if you are a huge company, but I am a solo operator, and I feel like that is a lot of hours on a mower for just 1 year of use, especially considering I didn't start last year in the prime mowing season. I started last year in June. And here in Texas, we don't really have a winter, so we do mow year round, but November, December, January, February, March, we mow every property about once, sometimes twice a month, just for leaf cleanup because our leaves fall for like 5 months here. But overall, this machine has been awesome for my company. As you can see how much I ride on it, I have wore the paint off right there where my feet said. All right, let's start off with all the things I have broken on this machine in the first year of owning it. And the first one is kind of a big one. It's because SCAG really promotes and values the thickness of their deck on their Velocity deck. And I think the deck is awesome. I, however, have had a major problem with the deck. So one of my very first jobs I was doing, also my fault, not SCAG's fault, but I'm not impressed with how easily it was damaged. I was doing a major cleanup and I found some buried stuff that was not great for a mower to hit at full speed, and I ended up bending my deck. But I didn't bend the deck area itself, I bent the mounting area for that spindle right there. So whenever you would look at, the blades weren't exactly lining up level to level, they were cocked just a little bit. And well, it wasn't a big deal at the time, but whenever the growing season got around, you started to see like this little weird track the mower was leaving. And I just couldn't figure out why one blade was slightly tipped down more than the others. I took it in, they said for sure you bent the spindle mounting area, and they have a fixture or a jig they put it in, and they're able to heat it up and bend it back straight. Now I will say, because it was heated, I do believe that I always watch it, and I do think right now it's slightly tweaked again because they said it would likely come back if you didn't replace the deck. But that is my only complaint about the deck, is even though they brag about how awesome it is, I feel like I didn't do enough work to cause the damage it did. Like, it was an accident that happened, but it caused a serious damage, especially since like I was just starting out and I didn't understand how bad it could be. Now we have different policies within our company, and by company I mean myself, that we don't do certain things anymore, like trees and cleanups. We walk the yards better. But overall, I'm a little disappointed in how easily that bent, But I'm also really love this deck, so don't take that as a negative. I love the Velocity deck. I just wish that the one thing they bragged about was a little stronger than it is, because they brag about 1/2 inch steel. Well, it's actually not 1/2 inch steel, it's 3 plates welded together, which can lead for some deformation or deflection if you were to hit something. Like when I hit something, it acted like it tried to pull the spindle down, so it kind of tweaked it down some. That is the most major thing we've had happen with this mower. Next up, we had one flat tire, this one, during our first year. And I thought that was pretty good considering the things that I mow and the places I go with this thing, because I mow mostly big country lots, big acre properties. And well, out there, it's kind of like the Wild Wild West. You never know what you're gonna get into. I did look at upgrading to Tweels, and I do like the idea of Tweels. I just don't like the price tag. That's a pretty big upfront investment to make, knowing that these tires only cost about 88 bucks and Tweels cost about $6.99 a piece. So you can buy a whole bunch of tires for the price of a Tweel. I will say my next mower, if I can include it in the purchase price, I will go ahead and throw Tweels on it, and that way I can have them from the beginning. It's just Tweels are a big investment just to pay cash for after the fact. Next up, we had a deck drive belt finally go out. Not the little one. See, on a SCAG, you have a main drive belt that comes from the motor. It comes up here to this pulley and drives these two, and then it piggybacks off over here. So we have this little drive belt that drives just this spindle, and then we have the main drive belt that drives this one and this one. I broke this one the other day, so after about 300 hours, it broke. I actually think that might have been my fault, because when I was pressure washing the machine, I think I hit the belt and put a little nick in it, because it broke pretty clean. Next up, these little guys right here. I don't know what you call these guys, but I used to lose one of these almost every other day when I first got the machine. It was really something annoying, because most people said just take the spindle covers off. See, they come off just like this. I don't like to see all that right there, because, well, it's moving parts, and a lot of times when I'm here at the house, my kids come out and ride with me, and I don't want that exposed when they're with me. But I used to lose these like, I don't know, 2 or 3 a week. They would just rattle out and be gone. So I went and bought some nylock nuts right there, put them on the end, and now they are always with me. I haven't replaced one since I put these nuts on right here. And the other thing that wears out a lot, because I change blades almost every day, I'll get more into that later. These right here, these spindle bolts and nuts. If you go off and on with them all the time, eventually you're gonna have to change them. Like this week, I had to put a brand new one on there because the threads are getting stretched out. That one right there is not far behind, and that one over there got changed about a month ago. So if you change the blades all the time, which I will talk about more later, you're gonna have some wear on your spindle bolts and nuts. And the crazy thing is those are very expensive bolts and nuts, but you need them. And plus, changing blades on a SCAG is literally the easiest thing you can do. All right, those are all the things that I've broken. Now let's talk about the upgrades I made in my first year. And the first one is this right here. This is the grass flap, and it allows you to have a operator controlled flap for your discharge, meaning I can open it and close it with the foot pedal on the mower whenever I'm driving. So I hit the pedal, and I didn't think I was gonna love that as much as I did. The reason I got it is because I was mowing some commercial properties, and I found some things in the ditch, and they got thrown really far. And I said, man, that's probably not a great idea considering there's a highway here and a business here. So I went ahead and got that, just because I wanted to keep from throwing things out. But there's way more to this thing that I learned I love about it than just keeping things from flying out of it. Like when you're doing fall cleanups, it's very awesome to help control leaves and all the debris you're trying to clean up by just closing it or halfway closing it. Like you can hold it halfway closed. Also, during the growing season, when you're trying to control your discharge clippings, you can easily bend it about 45 degrees down. So it'll be something like that right there. So instead of throwing the clippings 4 tracks that way, they fall down in the next path that I'm gonna cut. That way I don't have to keep chasing them to get rid of them. Because I don't know about you guys, when I mow a yard, there is 0 clippings left. I cannot stand companies that will mow a yard one pass and not do a cleanup pass where they leave clippings everywhere. I know, time is money, but quality of cut is also a pretty important thing too. So this right here actually allows me to help mow cleaner. Even though I'm mowing big country properties, this is an excellent way of helping control your discharge. Also, you can close it when you go by flower beds, close it when you go by houses, Close it when you go by cars. Close it when you go by anything expensive. And then when you're wide open, open her up and let her fly. Really love that. I think every mower I own will have that from now on. The next upgrade I did was because I am a solo operator and I do a lot of big properties, and I got tired of walking everywhere with my weed eater. So I got this T-Rex trimmer rack that mounts on your roll bar from Ballard Products. And so far it's been awesome. I love the idea of it. Kind of hate the rack now. It's been on for about 2.5, 3 months. The rack itself could be better, but I love having the trimmer with me because I have a lot of properties where I might mow like half a mile out a driveway, and when I get out there by the road I need to trim the mailbox area and the front entrance area. I don't want to walk all the way out there, so I just mow my way out there, jump off trim, mow my way back. Awesome idea, bad execution. Here's why. So these little things come with like this double-sided tape that sticks on for like a protection right here. As you can see, I'm starting to wear really badly on my trimmer shaft because of that. Also back here, you wear pretty bad on your handle because that was the first thing that came off. That protective foam came off in like the first 3 hours. Also, after all the bouncing, look how much play it has in it now. And that is because look at these nuts. They're wallering the holes out, right? So like, that's not a great idea either, because I think after doing this all day, every day, it really wears things out. This thing turns a lot. It turns all the time when you're driving. So it's upside down, it's right side up, it just turns. I try to manipulate this handle to help hold it, but it still turns some, which led me to the next thing, my equipment defender racks. So they hang on the trailer on these two brackets right here, which looks like this in the trailer. And these ride perfectly, meaning I'm not tearing up the handle, I'm not tearing up the shaft, they don't rotate on you when you drive. So I was thinking, what if I improved the T-Racks? Really, what if I just started over and made my own, but it utilized these brackets right here. That way I could hold it steady on these, not on the shaft, and it would keep it from rotating. And it would lock in the same way it locks in to the trailer. That's my idea. It's gonna be a very expensive idea because I have to actually buy an equipment defender rack like that one, cannibalize it, and make my own. As a solo operator, this is where it's at. And honestly, I think even when I get employees, the type of yards I mow, the big properties, I think both mowers will always carry a trimmer with it because it just makes more sense than to make special dedicated trips with the trimmer to offshoots of the yard. When you're already over there mowing, just go ahead and trim it and be done with it. So those are the two upgrades, the grass flap and the T-Rex trimmer rack. How much maintenance does this thing require? I'm just checking the hours. I'm at 3:12 right now. So on SCAG, when you buy a brand new mower, they tell you to change the oil the first time after 20 hours. So our first oil change was 20 hours in. Our second oil change was 120. Our third oil change was 220. This thing is actually very easy to change the oil. It is a little messy. So you have this little tube right here that you just pull down right there, and you just drain it out. The problem is that the oil filter is right there, and no matter how you do it, it's always going to make a little bit of a mess. That's why I back it up down this hill right here, so at least it runs this way on me whenever I let the oil out. But I've done, well, about to do my fourth oil change, and I like to keep it simple. The manual says certain intervals about everything. I prefer to keep it easy. Every time I change the oil, I change the spark plugs, I change the fuel filter, and I change the air filter. Now in between oil changes, I clean this out once a week. You will see that it's going to be very dirty because it hasn't been cleaned out at all this week. We're at the end of the week. But here is my air filter. This is 100 hours of use. That right there is getting changed very soon. Some of y'all may be saying that's a little overkill, but spark plugs, fuel filters, and air filters are all very, very cheap compared to what you're trying to protect. So why chance it? Plus, I already know from the greasing procedures and things I'm going to talk about in a minute, more is always better. And I found that doing the very minimum is usually okay, but I know that doing a little bit more is always going to be better. Plus, I've never had a problem, and I have zero concerns about whether or not the maintenance is going to be the reason this thing fails on me. And I will continue to change all those things at every 100-hour interval because, well, it seems to be working just fine. Now, my next big scheduled maintenance that's not normal is the 500-hour mark. I need to change the hydraulic fluid and the filter on that and make sure I purge the system. Other than that, it's just normal, everyday routine maintenance. I believe there is some valve adjustments and some motor adjustments that are due around the $500 mark, which I could have the dealer do, or I can just go watch a YouTube video and see if I can do it myself. But overall, SCAG, I believe, makes one of the easiest machines to maintain. Now, I have not owned any other models of a Z-Return. Well, I owned an X-Mark one time, and it seemed about very similar, but the X-Mark didn't have as many grease points. This one has a ton of grease points, and everything seems to be positioned or laid out in a very convenient way to do maintenance on it and service the equipment while you're working. When it comes to greasing, I probably overdo this because grease is cheap, but also through my experience of running the machine and seeing how many pumps it takes to actually see grease come back, I feel that you need to grease more than the manual on most things. So I grease this machine every morning. I also change the blades every morning. These front casters right here, they say to grease them every 500 hours. That's probably right. That's probably right. I put about 1 pump in there, and usually like once a week I get 1 pump in there. And you can see right now, this one's raising up again because, well, it's full, which means the seal is holding, and I'm trying to blow the cap off by putting grease in it. So that one right there seems about right. I put 1 pump in a week. I don't do that every morning because, well, the cap just comes off. These front casters right here, they claim you should grease these every 100 hours. That is in fact incorrect. You should grease them about every 8 to 10 hours because every morning when I grease these might take 15 to 20 pumps to start seeing grease come back. Which means the grease that was in there yesterday is no longer in there if it takes that many pumps to fill it up. So I will say every 10 hours is when you should be greasing these guys right here because they wear out grease in a hurry. Next up, you have grease points right here, right there, right here, and right there. And that is for the deck. Whenever you pick the deck up and down and how the deck rides and how it holds the chains up and everything, they say those should be greased every 100 hours. That's probably right. Those take about 1 pump and you see grease come out, so it's not going anywhere. Next up, right back here, you have these little push arms that hold the back of the deck. They have really inconvenient grease points to get to. They say you should grease those every 100 hours. That's also incorrect because I grease them every morning, and those also take about 15 squirts to get grease to come out. And those are kind of what stabilize the back of the deck and keep it holding straight, especially if you bump stuff. It just keeps everything lined up. I think they're called the deck push arms. But yeah, super hard to grease, but they need grease every day. And the last one is the spindle greasing, which is actually super easy to do. They say every 40 hours. I say every single day, every 10 hours, because I will say, after 1 day of mowing, they take 10 to 15 squirts of grease before you see it come out the relief. So that right there is never gonna hurt it by having too much grease. But having not enough grease will always hurt something that's not supposed to be turning metal to metal. Another big thing I do every single day, regardless of how many yards it cut the day before, I change the blades on this mower. Sure, the Velocity deck is awesome, but it's only as good as the blades you have on it, and they need to be sharp. So like I said before, I cut a lot of acres. I cut a lot of properties that are country acres. My yard, a little over an acre. I could do these all day, not be a problem. I have several neighborhood yards. I could cut neighborhood yards probably for 30 days without changing blades. But when you start mowing these big country properties that have 4, 5, 6 acres of Bahia grass, I can literally tell you at what point in the day the blades are done and could be changed. Most of the time I just power through it because I'm so close to being done. But usually about the 10 to 12 acre mark, you can see the performance of these blades are just done. They are so worn down and they're just not doing a great job anymore. First thing in the morning, you can almost go full speed, discharging everything, nice clean cut on first pass. By the end of the day, you're probably going very slow and making some double passes to clean up some areas just because that's how fast these blades are turning and what the grass down here does. Now, if you're not from Texas or the South and you don't have Bahia, you may not experience that, but I have found that it changes my time of mowing significantly by having sharper blades on. Like, I have a 5 acre property that was taking me about 5 hours with not changing blades. With changing blades, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. So it's totally worth the 5 minutes it takes to change the blades on a SCAG because it's very easy. You jack the front of the mower up, hit this nut right here with an impact gun, the bolt falls out the bottom, new blade on, bolt back in, impact it back up. Total time, 3 to 5 minutes, new blades on. But those 3 to 5 minutes will save you hours over a whole day. So that's why I change blades every day, and I will continue to change blades every day because of the benefits of how much faster I get done and how much more productive this mower is with sharp blades. And now I know everybody's gonna say, well, if you got an Exmark or a Hustler or whatever brand you think, that's fine. They may cut fine too, but every mower, no matter what brand it is, are only as good as the blades that are on it. So if I had a Hustler or a Gravely or an Exmark or any other brand out there, I know I'd probably do the same thing. I would still change blades every single day because that's how important it is to my time when I'm mowing. My last yard took double passing, but it was a small yard, simply because I probably mowed 14 acres yesterday. 14 acres, way too much for those. About 10 to 11 acres is where it's time to change blades. And most of the time I plan blade changes throughout the day. If I'm mowing a bunch of big properties, I know when you get to 3 o'clock this afternoon, blades will probably be done. Go ahead and plan on changing them just because of how much faster the mower will mow as soon as you change blades. If you've been watching for any mile time, you know that I have a trailer full of parts. So what parts do I carry for this thing right here? Well, I used to carry a whole box of these guys. Now I don't have any reason to carry them because I don't lose them anymore. But I carry a spare set of every single belt. So you have a main drive belt, you have the little piggyback drive belt for the blades, and then you have a belt back here to run the 2 pumps for the hydraulic system. I carry all those. I also carry about 3 sets of these spindle bolts, nuts, and the spacers that come with them, because you never know when you're gonna have a problem, especially if you're trying to change blades in the field and you have a nut and a bolt that are just wore out and won't go back together. So I carry a spare set of those. And I always have at least 1 set of maintenance kits on there, meaning air filter, fuel filter, spark plugs, oil filter, and oil, because I like to have it on hand. I don't like to go to the dealership when it's time to do it. I like to have everything here. That way, whenever it's due, I just do it, I order a replacement, and I move on with my life. Other than that, I haven't carried very many spare parts. I now have a spare tire, which is not really a spare, but it's a get out of jail free tire. Like if I ever mess a tire up real bad, I have a tire I can put back on that has a slow leak, but it'll get me by until I get a new tire in. I also carry spare blades in the trailer at all times, because you never know when you're gonna find that root or that surprisingly hidden cinder block in the yard that's gonna bend a blade. And I'll tell you what, if you ever bend a blade on one of these, the cutting pattern it does is atrocious. So I always carry a spare set of blades, probably 2 spare sets of blades, because like I said, I mow a lot of properties and it's the Wild West out there and you never know what you're gonna get into. Let's get into all the things that I love about this machine. Number 1, the Tiger Cat 2 is the 3rd from the top of the line, meaning it's a compact version of the other 2. So I love the fact that it is actually a lot of horsepower and a lot of deck in a small package, meaning I can go a lot of places that bigger mowers can't. Now it's not so small that it's not still a giant zero turn, but it's considerably smaller than a lot of the ones out there, and it makes it awesome for loading it in the trailer, awesome for mowing around all the things I have to mow around. Love it. Next thing I love, this adjustable seat right here. So you just turn this knob until you get to the bounciness that you like. I will say go slightly heavier than you are, because if you're right at your number, you kind of bounce a lot and bottom out. So just a tad bit more than you weigh is the sweet spot for that seat. But that seat right there makes riding this thing all day, it's comfortable. It's like a Cadillac. This thing is a racehorse. I told you before, it goes 12 miles an hour. 12 miles an hour is very fast. I will tell you right now, you cannot mow at 12 miles an hour, but you can go 12 miles an hour if you want to, which is awesome for the properties I mow. I love how fast it is. I love how quick it is and nimble it is at turning around and going the other way. But like I said before, that 12 mile an hour is just a speed to brag about, because you can't really mow at 12 miles an hour, but it does mow very, very fast. Next up, the Velocity deck. I actually love this deck, the way they have the baffles and how large the discharge size is. Like, you see how much discharge we have? This thing is amazing at running over mountains of grass. Like, I mow consistently grass that is above my front caster. It literally takes all that grass, 60 inches of that grass at the speed that we're mowing at, and just pulverizes it out that deck. I do think that this is one of the better decks on the market. I know everybody has their own deck they think is the best. I happen to actually love the Velocity deck just because of how well it moves grass. Like I said before, the biggest factor in how well it moves grass is how sharp your blades are and the lift on your blades. I prefer to run high lift blades because, well, they have this suction effect. They really stand the grass up and get it out of the way. The downside is high lifts wear out really fast and they kind of cover you in a lot of debris, which is something I don't like. But I love the SCAG Velocity Plus deck. Amazing deck in my opinion. The biggest thing I love about this machine is I opted to get the 36 horsepower motor on a SCAG Tiger Cat 2. They normally come with the 26. I'm a firm believer in getting the biggest motor that the model offers because there's no replacement for displacement. I have never had a situation where this wasn't enough power. This is amazing. I will never own a mower that's not the biggest motor on the model. And I know that because I test drove a Cheetah recently and the one they brought me was not the biggest motor that they offer on the model. And I will say I was slightly unimpressed because I was using it in the same yards I use this one. And even though it had a 38 horsepower motor, I believe they offer a 40 on the Cheetah. And I found it bogging down and having a hard time moving grass as easily as this one does. So I will say, if you're gonna get a zero turn, spend the extra money. It's actually not much more money to get the biggest motor they offer. I believe there's only like a $500 or $600 difference between the 36 horse and the 26 horse. It's not a huge savings, so why not get the most horsepower you can get? And the last two things I love about it are all related to maintenance. I love how easy it is to grease this thing and maintain it. Super easy. It's set up for the user. I also love how easy it is to change my blades because I get to do it from the top. A lot of mowers you have to screw in from the bottom, means you're under the machine a lot. I'm actually never under the machine doing this. Sure, my arm reaches in to put it back in, but I don't have to lay on the ground and use an impact gun underneath the machine. I can do everything from the top, 3 to 5 minutes. That's what I love. It's easy to take care of and it's easy to use. Now for a list of the things I don't like so much about this machine. So remember I told you it's pumps and motors for the drive system? Well, the good thing about that is I have a ton of torque and horsepower. The bad thing about that is I have a ton of torque and horsepower. So the driving is super aggressive. When it's dry out, awesome. When it's wet out, I told you this thing weighs 1,250 pounds. Well, when you have all that horsepower and torque on those handles right there, this thing spins the tires too easy. Like it's like an all or nothing thing. There's no way to feather this thing. Like, well, as soon as you give it any amount of forward like direction, this thing right here, if it's wet out, will spin these tires in a heartbeat. Like I'm telling you right now, that's the one downside. I feel like it's too aggressive on the driving, especially when it's wet. It's so hard to try to do a good 3-point turn without getting one of these tires to either drag or spin, you know what I mean? So that's my one complaint. But I've never driven one with the transaxle, so I don't know if the dampening effect or the start and stop effect is any different than say these. But I feel like I wish there was a, I don't know, like a curve. Like it was a gradual curve into taking off, not all or nothing. Like literally, if you do that right there, just a little bit, you get all the power. It's so sensitive, and you see it big time whenever it's wet out. Like it will get stuck in a heartbeat. This is the worst off-roading machine ever invented, if you were wondering, because it weighs 1,250 pounds and it's got so much horsepower that's just raw. So that's my one complaint about the drive system. I think sometimes it's just too much power all at once. The next thing, I told you it holds 9.5 gallons of gas. My biggest complaint is I feel like it's always empty, and that may be due to the fact that we're running a 36 horsepower motor, but I feel like I fill this thing up all the time. I kind of wish it would hold more because it's an awesome machine and we cut a lot of ground. I've never had to cut a property so big where I had to stop in the middle, but I have several properties that take almost the entire capacity to cut. And I think it's because of that 36 horsepower Vanguard motor on there, which is the one upside I read if you go to the diesel motors on the top of the line equipment. Whatever you're spending in fuel with a diesel will be cut in half, which is a significant savings even if you have to add the cost of the diesel motor. because we go through about $60 a day or 20 gallons of gas every single day. Well, if you add that up over a year, the cost of going to top of the line diesel almost pays for itself if you're spending half as much in gas or diesel per day to power your mower. Next thing is the deck thing with the spindles bending. I'm not really thrilled about that because that's one of their big things they brag about, and I managed to mess that up in the first couple months of owning it. Totally my fault, but I wish it was a little bit more forgiving, because now I have an issue with that one that I have to always monitor, and probably getting time to go back and have it adjusted a bit, because I do see some weird blade cuts when you're mowing. Like, it's not so bad in my yard, but certain grass and certain thickness of grass, you can see that it's not level anymore perfectly. It's close, but it's definitely been tweaked again, and that's because, well, they heated it up and bent it back, which means it's going to be very easy to bend back the second, third, fourth time. So I'm not a big fan of how easy it was to mess that area up, and I kind of wish that the 1/2-inch plate they're talking about was actually one solid plate, not 3 pieces welded together, especially since they're spot welded and not complete welded. But other than that, that's my only complaint about the deck. It seemed like I didn't really do anything super aggressive when I managed to damage it. Now it's something I have to deal with for the life of this mower, because a new deck is $1,500, and well, it only cost me about $100 to have them tweak on it. And the last thing about the deck is, once I installed the grass flap and with the baffle system, it's a great deck, but in the early spring and late fall, when you're doing cleanups, this thing right here has so much force or sucking power that you will literally be a dust ball as you're driving. So whenever it's real dry out and not in the prime growing conditions, you end up being covered in dust and grass, because you're just one giant, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a tornado. It's like it just engulfs you in dust. That's another complaint. I know it's because the way the deck is baffled and the way things are working, but this thing really blows out everywhere, especially in dry conditions. It's not so fun when you're mowing, especially when it's still hot enough that you're sweating, because all that dust just sticks to everything on you. Now, normal mowing conditions, you don't notice it because the grass is thick and it didn't have a chance to blow out, but whenever you're doing cleanups in the spring and fall, there's a lot of things that just move everywhere. So what did I pay for this machine? Well, a year ago I paid around $13,000 for a SCAG Tiger Cat 2. And today at my dealer you can get this same machine with the 36 horsepower motor for right around 13 grand out the door. And that is a great price, and one of the reasons I went with the SCAG Tiger Cat 2, because I got a 61-inch deck, I got a 36 horsepower motor, and I got the pump and motor setup, because I was afraid of running a transaxle commercially. I know I've ran a transaxle on one of my previous mowers for my own residential property. Never had a problem with it, but everyone suggested that if you're going to go commercial, to get a wheel and pump motor setup. That way you have dedicated drive systems. Now, I've read the pros and cons of each, that on a transaxle, if you have a problem, it usually just stays in that one transaxle, whereas if you have a problem with one of your pumps, it's going to contaminate the pump and that motor, so you're actually replacing 2 components if you have a problem. But I don't know if that's a problem or just something the internet wants you to believe so that you buy the bigger equipment. That being said, the Cheetah, which is actually one level above this one, runs the 5400, I believe, transaxles, and it actually has a 40 horsepower motor. So it's more horsepower with a transaxle setup, which is how they get their speed. They also have a gear shifter on it, which is how they get their high speed. The reason I didn't go with that is because, well, the Cheetah is basically this right here with a suspension platform and a gear shift for faster speeds. Well, this seat right here is perfectly fine. The suspension platform is very nice. I rode it, very nice. It's like butter. Also, the 40 horsepower motor would be very identical to this, and they both have the same decks. No matter what you get on the SCAG, the decks are all the same. So the deck is interchangeable between all the models. So the deck is not better or worse depending on what you go with. The reason I went with this over the Cheetah is because the Cheetah's big thing is it goes fast and it has a suspension platform. Well, I've already told you, I can't mow as fast as this mower mows, so you can't mow as fast as the Cheetah goes. The speed on the Cheetah is really designed for if you're working neighborhoods and you need to drive the mower down the road and not use the trailer. You put it in high gear, you rip to the next property, put it back in normal gear, and you mow like a normal person. That speed's not used for mowing. You can say it all day long, I got a fast mower. This is a fast mower. But it's not worth an extra $3,000 because a SCAG Cheetah is right around 16K out the door with the biggest motor. This is 13K. So the only difference I noticed in them is the suspension platform and the speed. If I was getting a mower to mow my own yard and I wanted to be plush, of course, I would get the Cheetah. This is a tool used to make money, and this is one I'm gonna buy because it's an asset to my company. I'd much rather get a mower for cheaper that can do the same job than say the one with all the bells and whistles, because really to me a Cheetah is just a Tiger Cat 2 with a little bit more bells and whistles. And the only reason I test drove a Cheetah is because I wanted to see if I could use a 72-inch deck, and you cannot get a 72-inch deck on a Tiger Cat 2. You have to go to a Cheetah to get one. And I found out that a 72-inch deck is not gonna work out great for my properties because too much scalping issues with the wings and the fact that none of my properties are flat. So for me, the Tiger Cat 2 was a better choice than the Cheetah. Now don't think I'm hating on the Cheetah, because I think the Cheetah is an awesome machine. I just don't think it's worth $3,000 extra, especially if you're gonna run a business and the business the way I do. I think the Tiger Cat 2 is the perfect machine for a business, especially if you consider the fact that one day I won't be sitting there. There'll be an employee sitting there. And I think this machine is more than enough for that job. Plus, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It has less things to break. To me, this is the perfect machine. And since I don't have a Cheetah, you probably guess why I don't have a Turf Tiger 2. Turf Tiger 2 is a machine. It's built to run all day long, every day. This does not run all day long, every day. This spends 1 or 2 hours mowing, and then it goes back on the trailer. The Turf Tiger is set up with its cooling systems and the drive shaft for the deck that you start it in the morning and you run it all day long, meaning it starts at 6 a.m. and it shuts off at 6 p.m. It's more for cities and places that mow parks, baseball fields, the big municipal areas. A Turf Tiger 2 is best for that because it runs all day long, every day. It's designed to run all day long, every day. Plus, you can get it in diesel. I do like the Turf Tiger 2, but I think it's way too much machine for what I'm doing. This right here is like the Turf Tiger Lite. That's the way I feel about the Tiger Cat 2. The Turf Tiger is up here, and I feel like this is a light version of a Turf Tiger. And then in the middle, you have the Cheetah, which is this with a few more bells and whistles. But this right here is a very close cousin, especially in the way it's designed and assembled and the way it operates, to the Turf Tiger 2. The Cheetah kind of took a different approach. They took a small machine and kind of made it faster, a little bit more aggressive, but they didn't give it the commercial concepts and parts that the Turf Tiger 2 does. So I feel like the Tiger Cat is just a step down from the Turf Tiger. It does all the same things, it just has way less overkill in terms of the way it's built and the way it's designed to run for hours on end. And that's why I went with the Tiger Cat 2, because I had to make a choice. This one right here, step up to a Cheetah, step up one more time to a Turf Tiger. I felt this checked all my boxes, and it's only 13 grand. A Cheetah is 16 grand, and a Turf Tiger 2, well, the cheapest one's 18, but if you get a diesel, you're up in the $21,000, $22,000 range. So that's a significant price increase for a mower that is going to be basically an investment for your company. You guys are probably wondering, why did I go with SCAG? Well, I used to own a landscaping company about 20 years ago when I was in high school and college, and it became a pretty big thing for me. And I ran SCAGs and Exmarks. So I looked hard at SCAGs, and I even checked out Exmarks. The problem with Exmarks is I didn't feel like they were as heavy duty as the SCAG. So when comparing top of the line to top of the line and equal model to equal model, the Exmark just seemed like it wasn't built as sturdy or as heavy duty as this one. Also, Exmark does this thing where the motor is turned sideways, and it makes it real hard to do some maintenance on the machine. So when I was thinking about what I wanted for my company, it simply came down to this machine seemed like it was set up to be maintained and taken care of easier than an Exmark. Things like the fact that the whole front fork area is bolted on. So if I bend one of these, I don't have to cut it off. I just buy a new one, bolt it back on, go about my day. This thing is very modular, meaning I can replace parts and not entire components or assemblies. I'm not saying Exmark is a bad machine. I'm just going by what I personally saw, and from my previous experience running Exmarks. Exmarks always seem like a great machine, but they're more designed to me for nice neighborhood residential yards. Whereas a SCAG is more for an off-roading type, country type mowing setting. Now this thing does great in neighborhood yards, but it really thrives when you get out in the open country and you really need to mow a lot of properties. Now that being said, I also looked at several others because, well, I wanted to make sure I gave every brand a fair chance. This dealer that sells my SCAGs also sells Dixie choppers. I looked at them. I thought they were a nice machine, but I didn't think it was a machine designed for commercial use. And I've never seen anybody running commercial Dixie choppers. So I looked at them. They were a cool machine. They're very fast, but I just didn't see like they were great for commercial use. Plus they're very big. They're a large footprint machine. Like they take up a lot of space. They're wide. Just one of those things. It didn't feel like it fit into the commercial landscape. More of a, I have some money and I have a big piece of property and I want to mow in style. That's what a Dixie chopper to me was. My dealer also sells a brand called World Lawns, which is basically, it's a budget zero turn. So you can get a 61-inch deck with a 26 horsepower motor that's made by World Lawn for about half price this, for about $6,500, $7,000. I looked at them. They have some good components on it, basically their drive system and their deck is okay, but for the most part they told me that this is basically a entry-level zero turn for a homeowner, not really designed to be used for commercial applications, because the way it's built and the way they cheapen it down to make it affordable, it loses the components that would make it stand up to everyday use as far as the way you would see in a commercial account. The Exmark dealer also sold grasshoppers, and I looked at them and I thought they were an interesting machine. The problem is I never got a chance to look at them good, because all they had was the ones that have the deck out in front of the mower, which is not something I want. And they had stand-ons, which is not something I need for the type of mowing I do. I do like the idea of a stand-on, but only if I was doing nothing but residentials, getting off the mower all the time. For big properties, I'd rather sit down in that chair, put my earbuds in, and just relax and mow straight lines. Now, if I'm getting off all the time, stander's the way to go. I like the idea of a stander and how easy it is to get off and on. When I looked at the grasshoppers, they didn't really have what I wanted, meaning a dedicated zero turn. They looked really nice and machines look great. I like the idea that the deck flips up, so changing blades would be a snap. This one I have to jack it up or find a tree to drive up on. That way I can get access to drop the blades out. They also have a Gravely dealer, which is great because Gravely's made in Texas, and I actually thought I wanted a Gravely. But when I looked at them, I was not that impressed with them, especially when you go price point to price point. I felt like their prices matched SCAG, but the components and the parts and the mower did not match SCAG as far as in terms of performance and what you're getting for your money. Plus, my father-in-law used to mow for a living, and he runs nothing but Gravely's, and the amount of problems he's had with his mowers. Now granted, they have a lot of hours on them and he's put them through the ringer, but he has problems on mowers I don't think you should have to have way more hours. So I looked at him, I gave it a hard think, and I decided not to go with Gravely simply because of his experience and the fact I didn't think price for price you were getting the same product. And the last dealer I checked out actually had two brands. They had Hustlers, which I like the idea of a Hustler, but I wasn't sold on it. So the Hustlers are nice machines. I've seen guys use Hustlers. They seem to cut really well. They're very fast. Overall, I think they're a good machine, but at the time I didn't give them enough thought because I really didn't think they were built the same as this. I got the same feeling as I did about the Exmarks on the Hustlers. I just felt like they weren't built as heavy duty. Like, I really like the idea of heavy duty machine. See that? Heavy duty commercial. Everything's big and bulky and it takes a beating, which honestly, if you're mowing country yards, it's just off-road mowing and you're just beating the crap out of that machine all day long. I just don't think the Hustler could have stood up to it. Not saying there's anything wrong with Hustler. My opinion was it wasn't built the same. And then they had Bad Boys. Now Bad Boys, this is weird. I've never seen anybody running a commercial company with Bad Boy mowers, but I'm not gonna lie, when you sit on a Bad Boy mower, it feels very comfortable. It's a very comfortable machine. Also a very big machine, like it just feels big. Like when you sit on it, it feels big. Like this one right here, it's little, I see everything. The Bad Boys felt big. They also drove very comfortably, and they also feel very heavy. The only thing that kept me from going with them is simply because I've never seen anybody run a commercial company with Bad Boys. I think they're a great mower. They have all the same components because frankly, they all use the same components. They all use the same motors. They all use the same transaxles. They all use the same pumps and motors. They all use the same components. Really what you're buying is paint and a frame, and really a dealership is what you're buying, because they all built of the same thing. It's just metal that holds all those components. It's what changes. Bad Boys, I would consider them because they do look like a good machine. I just don't know much about the deck, if they actually do mow as well as they think. Because really the big thing is even though I said they're all the same, I'm really buying that deck. I'm buying what that deck can do to tall grass and how well and efficiently it moves that. Plus, I'm buying the dealer because the dealer is really what you're buying, because you need somebody to take care of you whenever you need this machine taken care of, because this is how you earn your money. So you need someone that will support you when you're trying to earn money. And those are all the brands that I checked out. I don't think there's anything good or bad about any brand. I just prefer SCAG. And if you're in the market for a SCAG, Tiger Cat 2 is a pretty good price point for a commercial zero-turn mower to be the heart of your business. Now, would I buy another one of these? Absolutely. I'm actually looking to get the second mower in my fleet right now because I'm getting so big it's time to have an employee run a second mower. I'm actually gonna get the exact same thing. I was thinking about getting a Cheetah and having a Cheetah and a Tiger Cat 2, but then I was like, that would make maintenance and parts difficult because they don't share the same parts. So I'm gonna get another Tiger Cat 2 with a 36 horsepower motor, meaning they will share all the same components, same belts, same maintenance kits, same everything. So I don't have to carry two of everything. I carry two of everything, but it's not two different parts. It's two of the same thing. That way everything on this one is interchangeable with the other one and vice versa, meaning I can never be down. I'll always have a spare mower. I will 100% add the grass flap and our updated version of that because I think it's important, especially with the type of mowing we do, to have your trimmer with you and to be able to have a operator controlled discharge chute. So yes, I would 100% buy a SCAG Tiger Cat 2 in a heartbeat. Especially if you're running a business, this is more than enough mower for a commercial business. And plus it comes in at a pretty good price for what you're getting. $13K for this is an amazing value when you consider how much money it brings you in. Don't look at it as $13,000 for a mower, because if you do it that way, you're being emotional and you're seeing it as a toy. Look at it as $13,000 to bring you in money. This is just a money making machine. This thing right here, if done correctly, you can pay this off in usually a month and a half to 2 months. At least that's what we did. We paid this thing off in about 2 months of you running it, and that's starting from scratch with no customers. Right now, I could pay this off in about 3 weeks of mowing. If I were to buy a new one today with my current client setup, 3 weeks of mowing, we would pay this off, and it would be well worth the investment, because this 13 grand you spend to buy this generates way more than 13 grand every single month. Anyway guys, that's why I got a SCAG Tiger Cat 2. Those are the things I love and hate about it, and I would 100% get another one. Let me know what mower you run, why you went with it, and if you would do it again. That's enough talking to you. I gotta get to work. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one.